Hello, Casady faculty and staff. This is Wesley Fryer, your Director of Technology. Today is August the 11th, 2016, and I shared this presentation today for our new faculty as part of the TIP program, and just thought I would go ahead and record this for a few folks that couldn't be there, as well as anyone else in our faculty and staff who would like to see this and hear this, because I'm sure there are probably a few things in here that have either changed since last year or just might be new things that people haven't heard before. So if you'd like to access this presentation, obviously you're accessing it here and you probably don't need to get it otherwise, but I used a QR code so that if anybody wanted to scan it, and there's also a shortened web link, but you're watching it, so you're good. I had about 45 minutes today to share this presentation with new faculty, and I'm not going to take that much time recording this. I'll make this a little abbreviated, but these are the different topics that I addressed with them today and wanted to provide a little bit more detail about. And certainly in the case of our My Casady Blackbaud and on-campus updates, I'll be providing a little bit more detail about that on Monday morning when we have a chance to all gather together in Phi Theater. First off, our technology team. This is not a comprehensive photo, of course, of everyone, but our technology team is composed of myself and Lauren and both our librarians, Michelle and Sandy. And in each division, we continue to have our technology leads of Clint, Heather, Glenn, and Tommy. This was a picture taken in June when Lauren, Sandy, Glenn, and I were setting up Chromebooks that we obtained and purchased this year for not only middle division, who has a 6th cart to be using this year, but also several carts for upper division that will be not only in the library, but also in the Hightower building, in the Miller building, and also in the records building. In addition to our technology team members, we've also got our communications and public relations team, led by Betty Jane and assisted by Jane and Ben. And Ben and I have especially been working closely together in the past few months as we have been gearing up for our full Phase 2 transition for our website, which we'll be talking more about later. We continue to have a variety of resources accessible at the website support.casady.org. This next year, I anticipate we're going to be transitioning more to our on-campus and what we call My Casady website that will allow everyone to see a resource board for technology. But at this point, a lot of these resources can be accessed by visiting that website. Specifically, when you click on the knowledge base, we've got two different areas, public documents as well as internal documents that require you to log in. When you click on, for instance, the how-to folder, this is actually a shared folder within Google Drive. And I prefer not looking at this as an icon view, so I click in the upper right corner on those 3 horizontal bars. And that will present this as a list. And you can see there's a variety of different tutorials here as we are answering questions and providing assistance on different things. Sometimes we're going to create these sorts of documents, which may or may not be helpful to you. For example, we've got a document which Ben Kraft had created about the first-time logins for folks that need to reset their passwords. Most recently, we had some faculty ask about classroom response systems, and so put together a document that shows several different free websites that can be used for response systems for students to be able to, in the upper division, use their phones instead of having to use clickers. But we do have some faculty that are using response systems in their classrooms, and so anyway, this is a place where we're putting those kinds of how-to guides, and this is public, so there's not any kind of confidential or private information in any of these documents. Below those public documents, we have our internal documents, and so you have to be logged in with your casady.org login to see those. And there's a lot of good stuff in here that if you haven't visited and checked out, you probably want to. The first one we're going to look at briefly is the folder called Phone Stuff. And inside here is where you're going to find your voicemail instructions, shortcuts, commands for forwarding calls, little quick reference guides for different phone models. You'll have to look and see which model phone. Most people either have the Mitel 4001 or the 4025. Information about emergency paging, and also at the bottom our Casady phone list, which continues to be updated and will be updated for next week with our new faculty and staff and their new phone extensions, or changed phone extensions in some cases. This is an example of some of those documents, so getting a hold of the instructions for voicemail and also our one-page printed phone list. Those are good good documents to access and be able to print from that folder. In addition to phone stuff, we've got a folder for technology resources, communications resources, faculty studies request forms, and other things. Inside communications resources, that's where you're going to find our logos and PowerPoint slides if you'd like to use the templates that the communications department has provided. Inside the technology folder, you will see a variety of documents that we've put together. The first one there that has the yellow arrow talks about our Google accounts, and this year, in addition to having Google accounts for our middle and upper division students, for the first time we will be providing Google accounts for our lower division students. However, those will be limited in some ways. They'll only be able to email inside our school, inside the Casady.org domain. And another thing that we're adding is Gaggle Safety Management, and there's a blue arrow next to that, and that is a filtering service and screening service that will be identifying when or if a student would use profanity or reference suicide or bullying and certain other kinds of keywords, and if they do, it will flag that, actually not deliver the email, and then depending on what it is, a human being that works for this company, Gaggle, actually looks at it, and if it's a possible threat of imminent harm to a person, we'll actually call the division director. But if it's just something like some profanity in an email, there'll be a flagged email, and the division director will be notified. So this is not something we've had before. It is only for student emails. We don't have this, in effect for faculty and staff email. Of course, sometimes we have research papers and things like that may, we may be researching bullying, and so it's not something that's going to automatically send flags and notifications. There are humans who are involved in taking a look at those things, but hopefully it's going to allow us to be aware of some situations. And in fact, the reason or the way that I found out about this was because of an email that involved some bullying when one of our daughters was at another school, and they were using this filtering, and it enabled the assistant principals to be involved and to talk with those students about a situation. So those documents are there if you want to check it out and read more information. In addition, we will be updating our computer lab, computer cart, and iPad cart reservation procedures, because depending upon what division you're in, there are different resources available in the libraries and in some cases in the divisions and the buildings to check out, and so that document talks about those different procedures. So as faculty, and this changes a little bit for staff because we have sometimes some additional passwords to log into Citrix and some other systems, but primarily we have 3 different passwords. We have the Google Gmail account and password. We have what we call My Casady, that is our Blackbaud system. And then we have something called Active Directory, which really is only used by folks who are Windows users logging into our Windows domain with a desktop computer rather than a laptop computer. The first and last accounts can be reset by either Lauren or myself, and so if you need to get that reset, you can just reach out and contact one of us, either by filling out a SchoolDude request, which we'll talk about here in a minute, or by sending us an email for a password reset. The middle one for My Casady actually has a self-serve reset that I want to just briefly tell you about, because this one is not only used by our faculty and staff, it's also used by all of our parents and our students. So when you visit our website, Casady.org, and in the upper right corner, you click on My Casady, you'll be presented with our login screen. And if you have not logged in, or if you have forgotten your password, in the bottom you can click on that link and it will take you to a reset menu. And so then you'll be able to reset it, and you'll receive your reset link, and you'll be able to click that from your email, and you'll be able to reset your password. So that doesn't involve or require any direct assistance from our IT support staff or technology support. Everyone is able to do that directly. And so that's a good thing to know, because I'm sure that there will be some students as well as parents in the coming year who will need some assistance with their password, and it's nice that they can just directly do that as long as they have access to their email account, which we have on file for them. Security really should be everyone's priority, and it's really something that I want to encourage us all to think about and to be careful about, because the most frequent way that bad software, which we're calling malware now because it's bad, mal in Spanish is bad, or hacks really happen when folks click links or open file attachments or enter a password on a website that is not the legitimate website. So you always want to be very, very careful whenever you receive a request, for instance, via email that says, hey, please click here and reset your account. Generally, it's best to go directly to that website, go to your banking website, go directly to Google Drive, drive.google.com. Just really be careful whenever you put your email and your password, your credentials into a website because these kinds of things, unfortunately, are probably just going to continue to increase as we become more and more of a digital society, whether it's banking or insurance or, being notified about practices and performances and events and things like that, as we'll be able to do to a greater extent with our new website. So we want to be careful about those things and certainly make sure that you notify us immediately if there's any kind of a security breach that you suspect. On our school computers, the desktop and laptop computers, we run a software program that we license on a annual basis called Kaspersky. And so you will periodically on your laptop or desktop computer from Casady usually see a pop-up talking about Kaspersky wanting to update, and you do want to go ahead and update that. A number of years ago, we really didn't have to worry about putting security software on Mac or Apple computers because there just weren't very many programs that people were writing that would potentially harm Macs. But that's changed a little bit with more and more people using Apple computers, and so we do not only have this on our Windows computers, but on our Macintosh computers as well. And as I just mentioned, please do contact Lauren or I directly. You don't have to fill out a SchoolDude for this. Just send us an email, give us a phone call if you think that there's been some kind of a security situation happen with your computer, and we will assist you with that. Faculty have laptops, and we provide a laptop cable lock, and we encourage all faculty, if you are not physically with your laptop, to use your cable lock. I don't think that this has happened very many times, but I know at least one time over the summer when a laptop was left in a classroom and it was not secured, that laptop disappeared. And so it's important to remember the responsibility that we have for our technology, and if you have that cable lock and are not going to be with your laptop physically, we do encourage you to please use it. I have already talked about phone and voicemail, and will just comment that we are continuing to use our older existing phone system, which doesn't have all of the bells and whistles of newer what are called voice over IP or VoIP systems, but has been a very reliable system for us. And I want to encourage everybody to make sure that you are not only setting up your voicemail, but you are periodically checking that. And as a general guideline, we want to try and respond to any inquiries that we receive from constituents within a 24-hour period, if that's at all possible, which generally it is, but in some cases, people may not be checking their voicemail as diligently. So please make sure you get that set up, especially if you are a new faculty or staff member, and get that sheet that explains how you can check voicemail off campus. It's not possible with our system to do fancy things like send the voicemail to email or automatically forward to your cell phone, but you can check it off campus, and that's a good idea to be able to have those instructions and that knowledge of how to do that so that you are not only able to check it within your office. So I'd like to talk just briefly about our My Casady website, which we also call Blackbaud or part of it on campus. As many of you know, we have been in the transition over the past year. In the spring, we transitioned to what we called Phase 1 to the on-message platform, and so our public website changed, and that meant lots of wonderful visual changes as well as organizational and resource changes, helping folks navigate our website. And Betty Jane's team, with Ben especially, got just great reviews from many folks for that, and that was wonderful. Well, this latter part of the spring and summer, we've been transitioning to what we would call the back end or the database end of our website, and so that is now in almost full transition. We're still going to be switching to what we call on board for our admissions office starting in September, but for this year, for enrollment and for the start of classes, we are using on campus and on record. And those are things that we're doing some training about later on Monday, and we'll be continuing to support faculty and staff as we transition to these new products. So this is the splash page. It's called a resource page that is automatically shown when you log in to My Casady. This is something you can change, and some people will probably want to set that up to be My Day instead of this page, but I just want to draw your attention to the SchoolDude icon, which is there in the upper right corner. And if you end up changing your start page, or it will remember, pardon me, if you were in a different place, I think when you log in, or maybe that's the preference that you set as well. Anyway, you can click resources and always go back to this page. And so that's how you can find that link to go to SchoolDude. As those of you who have been here know, we have been using SchoolDude for a couple years now for maintenance requests, and we are now using SchoolDude also for technology support requests as well as trip requests. And so when you initially click on the SchoolDude icon, that will take you to the maintenance request form. And I have a phone call tomorrow which should be finalizing this, but we initially started by having to put in a password, and then they changed their setup and required a username and a password, an email and a password. Well, we have been configuring this and working with SchoolDude so that it's what's called single sign-on. So once you sign in to My Casady, you can immediately just click on SchoolDude and submit your request, and it'll know who you are because you've already logged into our initial website. So that should be active next week. And if you don't want a maintenance request, then you'll click the second tab there, which is highlighted with the green arrow, to do a technology or an IT request. Make sure that you fill out all of the boxes that have the red check marks beside them, and give us as much detail as you can about your request, and then go ahead and submit that. And again, this year we should be able to avoid and not have to put in additional passwords with the single sign-on setup that we have been working on. One thing that is important to note, and I mentioned this to faculty last spring when we did updates, is that if you have been, and I know we have especially in our middle division and some upper division faculty, using Google Classroom, you are welcome to continue using that. Just make sure as faculty that you link everything that you're going to use outside of on campus or My Casady. You provide a link from your class page so that parents and students can access that and see where else they need to go. Many of the features of Google Classroom, not all of them, but many of them are provided by our new platform, our new learning management system, and so it's going to be good to see and explore together and experience what those capabilities are, and then make decisions about what you would like to do. But there's not a mandate or requirement to say you have to stop using Google Classroom. It's just that you need to make sure you provide a link to it and instructions, and we're going to continue to share what we find as we explore more of the capabilities of the My Casady on-campus environment. And it may be that some folks will want to migrate away from Google Classroom and simply use the My Casady environment, but it's up to you as an instructor and faculty member what you would like to do. I want to just briefly mention a couple other topics. Updates and imaging. Whenever we have new software come out for our computers, especially for our Macs on the Mac laptops, but this can also be true on the Windows side. It's a good idea to wait and check with us before updating. One of the things that happened in the last Mac update, and I think this has happened several times, is that the printer drivers that we use, especially for our Canon multifunction printers, needed to be updated with, for instance, El Capitan, which was the latest major revision to the Macintosh operating system. So in a few cases, we had people go ahead and update, and then they were not able to print until we put the printer drivers on. One of the things that we do, and Lauren primarily does, is re-image computers, and so that's something that folks over the summer have done. They've left their laptop with us, and we've copied files over to back those up, and then re-imaged and put a fresh copy of the operating system on the computer. This is something we can also do and from time to time do with our Windows computers. For instance, our labs, we're in the process right now of just getting that finalized so that all of them are starting off with a completely fresh and fully updated, security-wise, copy of the operating system. So when it comes to your phone, that is, of course, your device. We don't provide support for individual phones, but you want to make sure that you are always clicking update from the actual menu. In one case this summer, we had a faculty member who had clicked something to update, and then it had some problems with the phone, and not entirely positive, but it really sounded like it was a pop-up link that was not the legitimate, update link. So very good idea to keep our software patched, but we want to keep those things in mind, and just always ask us if you have a question or are unsure about whether to apply an update or get something new installed on your computer. We definitely want to be wary of granting that permission to install new software. New software is great, and app stores, for instance, on the iPhone and iPad that Apple's done have made things a lot more secure, but there are still risks out there, and if you've ever got questions, just ask us and let us know. So this week, I sent out the first Technology Tuesday email blast, and that's going to be something that we're going to be working to regularly do from our technology team. The purpose of this is really to amplify the wonderful kinds of ways that our students and teachers are learning here at Casady, and to use technology to do that. And we'll also be sharing some tips and strategies and other things, but you can continue to look for those in 2016-17, and many of those posts will include some things that we share publicly on our Learning Showcase site, because one of the things we want to do is not only share within our community, but also in many cases share these kinds of stories outside our community to let others know about the great things happening here at Casady. One of the things we started last year that was successful and will continue this year is a Student Projects YouTube channel. And so you can find the link to this by going to our Learning Showcase, which is showcase.casady.org. As a classroom teacher, you are invited and encouraged to have your own YouTube channel that is connected to your Casady Google account and share your videos that you create, and also student videos as we have permission to share student work and photos, and as we ask students, because in some cases students may have and their parents may have signed permission to use photos, but they may or may not want to share it on YouTube. Now, I found that in many cases students are very energetic and excited about the chance to be able to have their work shared on YouTube. We have some playlists of projects last year that Eric Javeri's students did for 8th grade Spanish, that Carmen Clay's Spanish 1 students did with ebooks. And so if you are just not ready or would just like to share some things that your students have done in a shared channel, just let me know, and we can share access to this channel just like we do for a Google document, and then you can put those videos right there in the channel, and we can feature those and share those, and would love to encourage you on that journey, because no matter what we teach, video is an incredibly powerful media for documenting learning as well as for sharing our ideas, and we want to help you do those things. And certainly YouTube is a wonderful platform. There's garbage on YouTube just like there's garbage on the internet, but there's also wonderful things, and we want to demonstrate to our students the positive ways we can use technology, and we end up having opportunities to have those conversations about digital citizenship, especially when we're using these kinds of technology tools to share ideas and to interact. So just a few words about classroom technology support. We do have different ways for you to get assistance with technology in addition to the division leads for technology. Our librarians are available and would love to work with you on technology integration projects. I'm also available on a more limited basis to meet with you and to help figure out how we can use iPads or Chromebooks or other kinds of devices for students to be able to create projects and really show what they know. Use media to show what they know, to demonstrate their learning, and in many cases to teach. And we know that teaching is a much higher level cognitive activity than simply receiving information, and it's a wonderful thing to get students involved actively in that kind of way using technology. So this crosses over into what I would call technology integration coaching, and I've really enjoyed the opportunity to work with several of our faculty over the past year who have been interested in doing some different things with technology in their classrooms. And I hope this is an area that will continue to grow at Casady. I'm convinced, just like with sports, where we wouldn't send students out to just play, field hockey or basketball or football or anything else on their own and say, you guys will be fine, you know how to do this. Really technology use in the classroom is the same way. When we are able to work together, come alongside each other, and work one-on-one or in small groups with projects and learning new things, that's really one of the best ways to learn new skills. And so we're going to continue, hopefully, to grow that aspect. But we definitely are doing that now with our librarians and with the relationships that they have with the teachers in our different divisions. I just want to say a brief word about backups. It is extremely important that you back up your files, and probably the best way to do that at this point is to use Google Drive. We have been a Google Apps campus now for I think about 5 or 6 years, and so we have an unlimited amount of storage data that we can put into Google Drive. And if you're interested in getting that set up, there is now an application that you can install on your Windows or Macintosh computer, and it gives you a folder, and when you put files in that, it automatically goes right into your Google Drive, and we can also move files over there and help you do that. So that is a really great thing, and I want to just remind everybody to make sure you have a way that you're backing up your files, and that Google Drive is one of the best ways to do that. I want to say just a few words about Wi-Fi bandwidth and filtering. We have now fully segmented our network so that all of the traffic that students have on their own devices, or when they use Chromebooks, or when they use a device in the library, is on a separate part of the network from faculty and staff. And that's not only good from a security standpoint in case a student brings a virus or something like that on a flash drive and plugs it into a computer on our network, it's also good from a resource utilization standpoint. And so you are able, as a faculty staff member, not only to put your own Casady provided laptop or of course computer on our network, but if you have your own iPad or tablet, smartphone, you're welcome to do that as well, and we can provide that password so that you can log in. It's also really important, however, not to share that password to our faculty Wi-Fi network with students, because we do want them to be on their own network from a security standpoint as well as from a bandwidth standpoint. When I arrived at Casady last summer, we had a 100 megabyte connection from Cox, a fiber connection that we pay for faculty staff, and we had a 12 megabyte cable modem connection for our guest network. We upped that at the end of the summer last year to 50 megabytes, and this summer, because of actually pricing reductions and what we've negotiated with Cox, we've been able to increase the student network from 50 to 100. So we do have more bandwidth, but we're going to be watching that closely. And one of the significant changes that we made this summer was that we did block Netflix on the entire network. And Netflix is one of the most bandwidth intensive websites that can be utilized, and even just a few people streaming high-definition Netflix videos can consume almost an entire 100 megabyte pipe. So that is something to be aware of. If you're needing video clips for your classroom, visit with our librarians. We've got some subscription services that we pay for video clips, in addition to YouTube, which is of course open for faculty and staff, but Netflix is not this year, and that's something to keep in mind and to plan for as you're designing your lessons for the year. So if you have questions, we of course do want to answer those. We're going to have some opportunities here in the next week to be meeting and talking about Blackbaud and my Casady in more depth. Ben Kraft will be leading presentations that will be taking place in Cochran Library, primarily for upper division faculty, and I'll be leading those in the middle division. So really look forward to continuing to work with all of you. Casady is such a wonderful place, and it is exciting to see the things that are changing and continuing to be transformed. And I know that the number one thing that makes Casady great are the people, and so I really appreciate the opportunity to work with you all, and hope that you will not hesitate to ask questions, because we as a technology staff cannot help you solve problems if we don't know that you've got a question or that there's some kind of an issue. So don't be shy, reach out, and To the greatest degree possible, we'll try and use our SchoolDude system to document those kinds of questions. But when you see us, we know that you're going to ask us questions, and don't hesitate and think, I'm going to be the squeaky wheel. I don't want to be the one to ask the question. Ask the question. Let us know so we can provide assistance or figure out what we need to do to get a question answered or get a problem solved. So thank you so much, and welcome to the 2016-17 academic year.